Yo, what's up, everybody? It's International Master Daniel Rensch here with Chess.com's YouTube channel. And today I'm going to start a new video series, which I've been looking forward to doing here on YouTube for some time. We're going to call it Member Analysis Minis. For those of you who don't have a Chess.com membership, then you wouldn't know that we have a long-standing video series where myself and lots of our other Grandmaster video authors review the games of our members, whether that's an over-the-board tournament game that they submitted to us, or whether that's an online game that they played. And win, lose, or draw doesn't really matter. Members can submit any game they want, and we choose the ones we like to review, and it's a lot of fun, and it's a way to interact. The problem is that a lot of the times we get so many submissions, we can't choose every game, obviously, and no matter what we chose, those who don't get their game chosen always have their feelings hurt. And so to avoid anybody feeling less than about themselves, I decided that some of the games I didn't feel were maybe long enough or overall instructive enough or overall maybe not a very common opening line that I feel would give a lot of members information about a position that they play, meaning maybe a sideline and a position that not a lot of people would reach, so the chance of it being instructive for a large number of members is not very high. And so there's a number of reasons why a game may not get chosen, even though obviously to somebody it's very instructive and really important, and probably to a lot of people they may enjoy it. So again, the Member Analysis video lecture series is designed to basically, you have a coach for one game, right? You become an adopted student of one of our Chess.com video authors, and they review your game and give you lots of instruction in the process, and hopefully find ways to talk about practical ideas and different patterns that occur in a position that are instructive for a number of people, not just a particular member. So that's what we do with that video series, and I'm hoping that this Member Analysis mini series here on YouTube will be a fun way for Chess.com members who didn't get their games reviewed to get their games reviewed, and for all of our YouTube followers to also see what it's like to have your game reviewed by an international or grandmaster. So let's go ahead and review this game. It's actually a really exciting one. We have e4, e5, knight f3, and then f6. This is Damiano's Gambit or Damiano's Defense. I don't know exactly the specific name, but what matters is that f6 is not a very good move. This move to defend the e5 pawn is probably the worst choice. Not probably, it is the worst choice out of any way to do it. Knight to c6 is clearly the best. You get Ruy Lopez or Scotches are all mainline king-pawn games. d6 is the Philidor's defense, also a playable approach for black. You could argue that even queen to e7, despite the fact that she's like the old lady who swallowed the fly, right? She blocks the bishop, who blocks the rook, which prevents the castles, and all of a sudden you don't know why she swallowed the fly, right? So this kind of move is a really dysfunctional one in your development, but even that, to defend this pawn, can be fixed. And even a move like bishop d6, as ugly as a move like that is, which is also a move that sort of swallows a fly, meaning the bishop on d6 blocks the pawn, which blocks the bishop, which prevents development, and so you have this sort of dysfunctional chain reaction. If you're playing moves like bishop d6 or queen here to defend pawns, then stop doing that right now before my hand comes through the computer and slaps you silly. So those moves are bad, but all probably better than this move f6. The move f6 to guard the pawn is a move that blocks the knight, but also completely exposes this king to attacks, and that's why this one particular game was a miniature game, because of the approach the white takes here. Noted should be that before we even get to the move that was played, which is knight takes c5, and it's probably actually the most forcing way to take advantage of this blunder, I wanted to note that even moves like d4, just opening the center and creating awesome development for yourself while they've completely exposed the light squares and created all kinds of dysfunctional development for themselves, is good. And a move like bishop to c4, controlling the diagonal, followed by a slower approach in the center like c3 and d4 is perfectly acceptable, and all will give white a clear edge. Maybe these days with computer understanding and computer analysis of how black can actually defend against this move knight takes e5, you could even argue that bishop to c4 or d4 are better moves, possibly. But in any case, the most aggressive and most fun way to take advantage of this move is, of course, knight takes e5. What's the whole idea? What's the big idea? Well, after what was played in the game, when you take this gambit, the Damiano's Gambit, I have this move check. The move king up to e7 gets checkmated by force and probably even then some, as far as the humiliation you incur upon yourself and the emotional scarring that you then need therapy for the rest of your life. This is pretty ugly. We get all kinds of famous stuff here. There's this checkmate attack that occurs something like this and ends in brilliant checkmates, and I don't even want to go over it. Let's just say that black is getting crushed. So king e7 is not really an option, but the move g6 is played oftentimes, and now after takes, I win the rook. So just like that, I sacrifice material, but I've won it back, and with interest, of course, because your king is destroyed, and I'm actually up material. So that's what happened in the game, and we'll get to finishing off how our member, Mr._Norm, actually took care of this business, and he'll be excited to see his game here. But before we do, I wanted to say that better moves here for black. The computers recommend this move knight e7, but that blocks development. It's sort of supposed to be a safe move, but computers don't know what they're talking about when they're already completely crushed and you made them play two horrible moves, you know? So it doesn't really matter to me. I think queen e7 is maybe the best move, and the idea is based on after I retreat my knight. Well, actually, the most important trick to know, especially if you're someone playing the white pieces and you go for this, is not to fall for this move, queen h5 check. Looks really sexy, right? You're thinking, oh, he's got to move the king, and I'm like, yeah, right, and I check him, and I win the rook, and it's like crazy. I'm winning material, but no, that's actually not what's going to happen. He's going to play g6, and all of a sudden, booyah, I get a Chekhovsky and a double attack on the knight, and now who's winning? The whole position completely turned around. So don't fall for this trap of queen h5 check, allowing g6, and all of a sudden white is in ouch town. No longer is black there. So queen to e7, don't fall for queen h5 check, but after you make a simple retreat, instead, he can either take the pawn right away or play d5, but both, even though queen e7 is the best approach for black, both are still not great. Simple moves like bishop e2 and I just get developed. You're going to have long-term problems here. My development comes out a lot faster than yours, and accurate play, black is still completely lost because bringing the queen out that early and exposing your king, regardless of the development you're neglecting, is just a horrible idea. So the move d5 I think is best, and after d3, takes with check. Black can still try to be aggressive, but to prove white's initiative here, a surprising line is even lines like knight to c3, just giving up a pawn and trading queens, which normally is a bad idea when you're taking advantage of a king. But after moves like knight to d4, gaining a tempo, and bishop to f4, the position develops so rapidly for white, and black has no ability to complete his development without losing more material. It's really strange. I'm also threatening moves like knight e6 or knight b5. I castle long quickly. My rooks get on the open files, and something absolutely wretched is going to happen here, right? Something wicked this way blows if you want to go pop culture on us. Black is in big time trouble here, despite trading queens. So just to prove the point, even the best line for black after this wretched move f6, guarding the pawn, is an absolutely horrible one. That's the point we're proving. So even the best line is no good. And in the game, of course, black accepted the gambit and took here, and white took him to Smashville in style, just playing pretty much all the most accurate moves. I mean, d3 maybe isn't the most theoretically known move here, but it doesn't matter. It's perfect. Everybody comes out. It's a party at black's expense. h6 is a horrible move because he maybe just forgot his bishop was pinned to the king. c6 is a move that makes a lot of sense, maybe black's last defensive try, not only because it guards the d5 square and prevents white's next move, but also creates this sort of escape square for the king. So you may think it's irrelevant to recommend moves here when black is totally lost, but it's not. You never know when we all make mistakes and we get in bad positions, and remembering that even in those situations, unless you're going to resign and just call it quits, then by definition, if you're still playing, you still think you have a chance, right? Just think about it. Unless you're a masochist and just enjoy torturing yourself and actually are enjoying your opponent take it to you, right? Unless you're that rare percentile of a human being, then by definition, if you're still playing a chess game, that means you still think you can win. So it's always good to talk about resourceful defensiveness, or just resign and give it up and call it a ghost. Chess is a marathon, not a sprint. So if you're busted, then, admit it and move on. But if you're still playing, then you have to ask yourself, what is my opponent's next move? The basic principles we have to apply even in equal positions, which is why did my opponent go there and what's his next move, have to apply in every setting as long as you're still playing. If not, then just resign. So c6 is an obvious move for black that stops knight d5 and creates this escape opportunity. And you never know, maybe white would have messed up later on. The game is not completely over yet. But h6 is a horrible move, not just because I can take and take advantage of this pin, but this move, knight d5, takes advantage of a whole new set of pins. It's just over. Knight takes f6. You have to take here and just go down for the material, but black didn't. He played king f7 and allowed the checkmate to end in style. There may have been a number of ways to do it, but we'll go ahead and take white at his word that this was the best one, shall we? So lots of fun, and this was a member analysis mini. You can look for more member analysis minis here on Chess.com's YouTube channel, so a lot of Chess.com members will be excited about that. And if you are a YouTube fan and want one of your games reviewed, you can obviously submit it in our member analysis forum over on Chess.com. So I hope everybody enjoyed this video lecture, and we will see you around.